It's 5 p.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to the World Today. I'm Ann Nwawado. Here's what's coming up on the program. California officials warn that the fire threat is not over in Los Angeles as they vow to crack down on looters. Israeli foreign minister says there has been progress on a deal to bring back hostages in Hamas captivity. Plus, Ukraine President Zelensky says he is ready to exchange North Korean soldiers for Ukrainians held in Russia as NK troops fatalities exceed 3,000. Once again, welcome to the program. The wildfires keep on raging in California as at least 16 people are reported missing and 3 more have been found dead in inferno moving through Los Angeles. 24 people in total have died so far. Wildfires are currently burning in parts of Los Angeles. Firefighters are bracing for another round of strong Santa Ana winds.
Progress in their battle to contain wildfires that have devastated Los Angeles in California, especially the affluent Palisades neighborhood. Spreading flames and strong winds, however, still threaten communities in the populous San Fernando Valley. On Sunday, aircraft dropped water and fire retardants on steep hills to stem the eastward spread of the Palisades fire, and local media reported that ground crews had managed to save a number of houses, although others were lost. The blazes have damaged or destroyed 12,000 structures, according to officials. The flames have reduced whole neighborhoods to smoldering ruins, destroying the homes of the rich and famous and ordinary folk alike, and leaving an apocalyptic landscape. Officials say they're prepared for a new wave of heavy winds in the coming week that could potentially intensify the ongoing outbreak of wildfires.
Yesterday, we started a search and rescue operation out in the Eaton area, where in the first day of this operation, grid searching, we searched approximately 364 properties in the Altadena area, and unfortunately during that search, we did locate 3 deceased. As these searches continue, I unfortunately anticipate that those numbers will increase.
Now today, strong north to northeast winds gusts are up to 50 miles per hour with low humidity will be observed. A red flag warning is in effect and will remain until 6 p.m. Wednesday evening. Strong Santa Ana winds are also expected to last through Wednesday, with the strongest winds occurring on Tuesday. With the next wave of wind events, I want to be very, very clear here. It's very important that the community understands that these wind events are coming into Los Angeles. I want to reassure you that Mayor Bass, Chief McDonald, and I are united and focused on exactly what we need to do to prepare the city with these next strong winds that are coming.
Earlier on Sunday, dozens of residents from the Los Angeles neighborhoods under evacuation orders from the Palisades fire waited to no avail as they were denied entry into the fire zone where they had hoped to retrieve personal items from their homes. After waiting for hours, police eventually announced that there would be no escorts into the fire zone due to the weather, and residents began to leave.
No, it's hard. I mean, there's a thankfulness that at least for now my house is still there, but I grew up in the Palisades. My elementary school is gone. My high school is half gone. Most of my friends have lost their homes, so I don't know if maybe survivor's guilt is the right word. Maybe it's too early to even use that word.
There have been a lot of photos and people that were getting in the first few days, and so I've seen it, and it's standing, and it's what we're all in line for, to just be able to get some of our personal things because we're so afraid that it could go.
The fires, which have been raging since Tuesday last week, have drawn international attention. The situation being part of the focus of Pope Francis' weekly Angelus prayer in St. Peter's Square on Sunday.
Dove nei giorni scorsi sono divampati.
Meanwhile, firefighters say that they are making slow progress in the battle to contain the inferno that has burned wide areas in Los Angeles Pacific Palisades neighborhood to the ground. However, spreading flames and strong winds are still threatening communities. Officials are now warning that the threat is not over. Aircraft dropped water and fire returning on steep hills just to stem the eastward spread of the fire. Local media reports that ground crews had managed to save a number of houses, although others were lost in the inferno.
Elevated critical fire weather conditions will continue through Wednesday. Please rest assured that your County of Los Angeles Fire Department will be prepared. These winds, combined with low humidities and low fuel moistures, will keep the fire threat in all of Los Angeles County very high. And finally, to all residents, please be assured that we will continue to be here for you until the last fire is completely extinguished. So please rest assured that first thing Thursday, we will start talking about repopulation in evacuation order and warning areas.
Regarding any illegal activity that may be occurring in these areas, don't do it. The fact that anyone takes advantage of anyone who's been victimized already, whether it is burglary, looting, or any other crime, whether it's a scam of some kind that you're conjuring up to make money off of the poor people that have been involved in this. As a matter of fact, I'm set for a press conference tomorrow with Chief Jim McDonald, where we'll be with the district attorney, and we will be with probably the U.S. attorney. They are very eager to prosecute anybody involved in anyone who thinks they're going to take advantage of the people who have been through this tragedy.
A Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent Alberto Cavallo says that all schools and offices, with the exception of those in mandatory evacuation zones, will reopen as firefighters race to contain the frontiers of 2 Los Angeles wildfires that burned for the 6th straight day. Mr. Cavallo made this announcement after school closings affected 429,000 students in Los Angeles. Several people have died in what California Governor Gavin Newsom says could be the worst and most devastating natural disaster in U.S. history, one that has destroyed thousands of homes and forced 100,000 people to evacuate.
But as we go into tomorrow, and we have made the decision to reopen all schools and all offices tomorrow at the regular time and hour of operation. However, we will reopen all sites based on an inclement weather protocol. What that means is that outdoor activity shall be restricted. Tomorrow, we will reopen all schools and offices with exception of those schools that remain in a mandatory evacuation zone. Tomorrow is not going to be a normal day. Students, our workforce in many instances will come back having witnessed and experienced a level of destruction without parallel in the history of our community. Therefore, we are going into tomorrow with grace, with patience, with empathy, with support, with love, to address the needs of our children, their families, and our own workforce.
While in church on Sunday, hundreds of parishioners displaced by the Palisades fire attended Mass at St. Monica Catholic Church in Santa Monica in California. Many, like Kathleen McRoski, attended Mass regularly at Corpus Christi for over 40 years, but the church, which had immeasurable value to her, burns down. She's very grateful to St. Monica Church for opening its doors to those who lost their homes and their place of worship. Monsignor Liam Kidney, a pastor of the Corpus Christi Catholic Church, said that what happened to the church was unbelievable.
Today's invitation to prayer was everything. Everything. I know some people that are here who are not particularly regular churchgoers, but whose souls needed a place to come. And St. Monica's, combined with the Corpus Christi love and those who had lost things, we were all so lifted up. it brought us together for a sad reason, but it brought us together in a beautiful way. Our 4 children attended Corpus Christi School and church. Our children received all their sacraments at the church, all graduated through the 8th grade, and Corpus Christi holds immeasurable value in terms of our memory. I think it was the first offer of support that would heal us spiritually and physically and emotionally. And to be offered a place to come with others like ourselves who had lost homes or been displaced. We knew we'd be with people that were compassionate, and then to be able to have the service to receive the Eucharist was very healing.
I think our community needed to come together. I mean, these poor people, they have no homes. I mean, they have their families, and I mean, giving them an opportunity to meet other families who are struggling in the same way, and we have some commonality between us. So giving them an opportunity to come together and to share what is common between us, for me, was something really important. I couldn't believe it. Like the finality of the whole thing, you know, that literally the church building that we had said Mass in that morning, all right, that Tuesday morning we had Mass. And now, here I am on Wednesday, and I'm seeing the pictures, and there's nothing left. It was like unbelievable. You just say to yourself, how does something like this happen? So it's very sobering. Like it can happen to us in our lives, our personal lives, can go into shambles in simple ways, and can happen so quick.
In the meantime, thousands looking to offer a helping hand to those impacted by the Los Angeles wildfires showed up at a huge donation center at the Santa Anita Park racetrack, a city close to the Eastern Fire. But volunteers waited in long lines for a change to help with sorting through mountains of donations that included clothing, water, diapers, and tinned and dry food. The Santa Anita effort has become a huge display of humanitarian good, and that's after a street vendor announced on TikTok that he wanted to serve hot dogs to firefighters. People who had been inundated with images of destruction jumped at that chance to do something positive, and they flooded the donation center.
I just needed to come out and do something to help people. Sorry, I feel so bad for the people. So just wanted to come help somebody. That's all I can do. I can't give a bunch of money, but I can come and give my time.
The worst part about the fire was my dad's school is getting burned down. Kids cannot go to school. Kids and grown-ups are homeless. They don't have anywhere to live.
You know, he's been watching this on the TV with me as well. And he's been asking what's going on, what's up with the fire. And then today, we woke up, the air was okay, and we were like, let's go help. We have to, because we could easily be the next victims.
My family and we all came out because we want to give back to our city. We gratefully weren't as affected as far as tangible, things being burned down and things like that. But I think the whole city is affected, whether you've actually had your belongings burnt or not. So, I mean, you can smell the soot in the air, and we were just wanting to get out and do something, like feel active, that we're actually giving back in some way and supporting the community, feeling part of a community. I think that's a big part of it.
I'm here with my family, my mom and my sister. And yesterday, I took some friends over to come here and help. You know, social media has been a great help, you know. We couldn't have done this without social media, you know, TikTok, Instagram. And look at thousands of us are here.
Yes, today I came here. I have donated the water, and donated the food, cereals, and pasta. And also I donate face masks as well, and also some cleaning wipe. Because so for the past few days, so many families, so many people have been suffering from this wildfire disaster.
Joining us now is our Washington correspondent Maria Bird. Hello, Maria, and thank you for joining us on The World Today.
Thank you.
Now, what is the update at this time? I mean, it's so sad that even children understand what is going on in Los Angeles. Bring us up to speed on what's happening at the moment.
So at the moment, it is as you've shown, just a devastating situation in Los Angeles, specifically as we look at the acres and acres and miles of homes that have been destroyed and businesses. And as you saw, retail and churches and worship centers that have been destroyed. If anyone is very familiar with the U.S., if the area that has actually burned down in California is almost the size of Washington, D.C., which goes to show you how vast the burning is. And as you also noted earlier, that the winds are going to begin to pick up again. And if you've ever watched kind of when wildfires happen with these types of winds, it's the embers that actually ignite fire to the next area. That's how these fires are moving so quickly throughout the Los Angeles region. And as some have asked, what is the challenge? Are they just not putting enough firefighters out? But the reality is there would never be enough fire trucks, fire hydrants to be able to deal with this type of fire. When you think about a fire hydrant system in a metropolitan area, it's really to address, one or two homes that could be burning, not to address a whole city that's in flames.
Maria, we understand also that some people are returning to their damaged or even their destroyed houses. I imagine it is a devastating scene they meet when they get there.
Yes, you are exactly correct. It's a very emotional time for most families. In California, which is not odd to some areas, but I think specific to California because the cost of homes are so expensive, oftentimes these are generational homes. Many individuals that have been discussing their loss, these are losses that they have had for 3 or 4 generations. A family has owned a home, and so the type of memories and what has been lost goes far beyond the material items in the home. It really talks about an entire family who just feels lost. And as you mentioned, the homelessness that has obviously now increased as a result of people without their homes. The greatest challenge at this time is really going to be about how insurance companies decide to respond. We know there have been laws put in place to ensure insurance companies are not able to leave the state and that they have to at least stay in California for a year because obviously the amount of damage and the cost it's going to take to rebuild these homes is going to be quite enormous.
But Maria, we've seen individuals donating, we've seen churches coming out to help. Tell us more about what the federal government is doing to help the victims, or even the LA government doing at this time.
They're assuming that the cost is going to be in the billions of dollars to recover. The current President Biden has enacted relief efforts and funding that should at least help them for 6 months to get through these times. And so these funding cannot be reversed even if it was decided in the next administration. So at this time, what has been provided is about 6 months of support. And this support will not only address some rebuilding efforts, but it'll also address some immediate needs that members of the community have just for everyday food, clothing, housing. But as you mentioned, I mean, the donations are overpouring, and you see these donation centers in open areas to try to ensure that people just have some of the basic necessities.
An insurance crisis was already brewing in LA. Then the fire hit. That was just before when this happened, threatening California's already unstable insurance market. And we understand that insurance companies are dropping fire coverage for some, but can they do that? I know you mentioned about not being able to leave California for another maybe 6 months or a year.
Yes. So as you mentioned, the insurance crisis was definitely ramping up. As we know that this is not the first fire that California has seen. We have seen, unfortunately, fires in California over the past couple of years due to global warming issues. And so obviously this has put an additional burden on insurance companies. But there are laws, there's all types of protection around homeowners as it relates to how insurance companies are being required to respond and being required to support them through this effort and through these devastating times. And so it will be at least a year before insurance companies can no longer take clients in the state of California.
And we're already seeing huge display of humanitarian good. We've seen people donating so many things to help victims, and even churches coming out to help victims and survivors at least have something, some succor somehow. But tell us more about this and what you think from experience, what can happen in terms of donation, because the government cannot do all of this.
Yes, we're expecting to see an overpouring. There has already been a national and international outpouring of support to California. So we're expecting that the donations will continue. The American Red Cross is one of the largest contributors for natural disasters. So they are definitely galvanizing and putting individuals on the ground, but also providing financial resources to those impacted. So we do expect that the country and the world will continue to show their support for those who have experienced such great loss.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria Burt, our Washington correspondent, and please stay safe. Welcome back. Casualties, including children, arrived on Monday at Al-Abi Arab Baptist Hospital in Gaza City following Israeli strikes. Mourners gathered there crying over the bodies of loved ones, while others rushed injured people inside the hospital for treatment. Mediator, which is Qatar, has handed Israel and Hamas a final draft of a ceasefire and hostage release agreement designed to end the war in Gaza. A breakthrough has reached in Doha, and that's after midnight following talks between Israel's spy chiefs, President-elect Trump's Middle East envoy, and Qatar's prime minister. Israel launched an assault in Gaza after Hamas fighters stormed across its borders in October 2023, killing 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostage, according to Israeli tallies. But since then, more than 46,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to Palestinian health officials, with much of the enclave laid to waste and gripped by a humanitarian crisis and most of its population displaced. U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have spoken on phone. Mr. Biden's final week of office as momentum builds towards a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal. Israel and Hamas are understood to be making progress, but uncertainty remains over the key aspects of this potential agreement. The White House says that Mr. Biden discussed the fundamentally changed regional circumstances following Israel's ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, the fall of Assad regime in Syria, and the weakening of Iran's power in the region. Mr. Netanyahu's office say that it had updated Mr. Biden on instructions he had given to senior negotiators in Doha in order to advance the release of these hostages. During Sunday's call, which was the first to be publicly announced since October, Mr. Biden stressed the immediate need for a ceasefire in Gaza and the return of hostages, with a surge in humanitarian aid enabled by a stoppage in the fighting under this deal. In the meantime, Israel says that it wants a deal very soon on the release of its hostages held in Hamas captivity. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said on Monday during a press briefing in Jerusalem that Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke said that there had been progress in negotiating a hostage release deal. Well, according to him, Israel is now working with American friends in order to achieve a hostage deal, and soon they will know whether the other side wants the same thing.
Pretty sure that Ukraine and basically all countries around the world will step in the defense for an international rules-based order system where nations have the right to their own territories. Having said that, I don't want to get into any dispute with the incoming President Trump. I've known him personally. I served as Prime Minister when he was president in his first term. He have a certain specific way to formulate requests. And what we are doing right now is to getting into a more detailed dialogue with the incoming president. I think, and we agree that the Americans have certain concerns about the security situation in the Arctic, which we share. And therefore, in close cooperation with Greenland, we are ready to continue talks with the incoming president in order to ensure, I would say, legitimate American interests.
Well, let's bring you more on the Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke's visit to Israel. He delivered a statement along with Israeli counterpart Gideon Saar in Jerusalem, stating that Denmark recognized that the United States had security interests in the Arctic and was ready to discuss them with the incoming administration of President-elect Donald Trump. It says that Denmark is ready to continue talks with the incoming U.S. president in order to ensure legitimate American interests. About 300 North Korean troops deployed to Russia have been killed, with another 2,700 injured in combat against Ukrainian forces. And that's according to South Korean authorities. Officials from the country's spy agency say that the rising number of casualties have been attributed to a lack of understanding of modern warfare and the way that Russia used the North Korean military. The lawmakers, citing the National Intelligence Service, says that North Korean authorities appear to have called for its troops to commit suicide by blowing themselves up to evade capture. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that he is willing to hand over 2 captured North Korean soldiers to Pyongyang in exchange for Ukrainian prisoners of war in Russia. Mr. Zelensky said on X that those North Korean soldiers who did not wish to return, there may be other options available to them. The Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, said that one of the 2 soldiers told officials that he thought he was going to Russia for training rather than to fight. It was found with a Russian military ID card issued in the name of another person. The other soldier had no document. The SBU said the 2 men who had been taken as prisoners on January the 9th are in Kiev and are now receiving medical care. They only speak Korean and they are questioned with the assistance of North Korea's National Intelligence Service. Russia has not denied using North Korean troops in its war against Ukraine, and President Vladimir Putin said in October that it was his own country's sovereign decision whether or not to deploy such troops. The Kremlin says that there were no specific preparations yet underway for a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, but there is an understanding and a political will for one. Speaking at a daily call and briefing to media, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that the issue of security guarantees for both Russia and Ukraine will be an integral part of any possible settlement between the warring sides. Mr. Peskov told reporters that President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly flagged his readiness for contact with all the countries, including the United States, in securing an end to the conflict. And for President-elect Donald Trump's incoming National Security Advisor Mark Waltz told U.S. media ABC News this week that he expects Mr. Trump to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin. As the Waltz said in an interview, he expects a call at least in the coming days and weeks, and so that will be a step. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called on allies on Sunday to honor all the promises to supply Ukraine with weapons, including those to counter Russian air attacks. Mr. Zelensky said that over the past week, Russian forces had launched hundreds of strikes in Ukraine, and nearly 700 aerial bombs and over 600 attack drones were used in the war. Ukrainian air defenses downed 60 out of 94 drones launched by Russia overnight. The Air Force said on Sunday that it said that 34 drones were lost in reference to Ukraine's use of electronic warfare to redirect Russian drones.
Are underway, but just taking a step back for a moment, John, it's been striking to me just since President's election how many people have gone from just unqualified blank check, as long as it takes, whether that's months, years, decades, in terms of perpetuating this war, which really has bogged down to a World War I style meat grinder of people and resources with World War III consequences, to now even President Zelensky walking in the room in Paris and saying, ready to work with you to end this war. Let's end it justly, responsibly, in a way that protects Ukraine's future, but ends this thing, and so the entire world can move on from it. So, from President Trump's perspective, you can't enter a deal if you don't have some type of relationship and dialogue with the other side, and we will absolutely establish that in the coming months. Well, we haven't, set the exact framework for it yet. We're working on that, but I do, expect a call for at least in the coming days and weeks. So that would be a step. And we'll take it from there. Well, we would like to see a ceasefire in any minute, any day. I think that would be an incredibly positive first step on both sides, and that would then allow us to enter into the framework of some type of negotiated solution here. Everybody knows that this has to end somehow diplomatically. I just don't think it's realistic to say we're going to expel every Russian from every inch of Ukrainian soil.
And to politics now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that he reiterated that Canada has no intention to become the 51st state of the United States. Speaking to former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on U.S. local media, Mr. Trudeau discussed President-elect Donald Trump's repeated comments that Canada could become a part of the United States. Trudeau says that he knows, as a successful negotiator, that Mr. Trump likes to keep people off balance. However, Canada, as a 51st state, is not going to happen. The Prime Minister, who had faced growing unpopularity in the polls ahead of the national election, announced that he will step down in March after his Liberal Party picks a new leader. Mr. Trump has upped the ante recently with repeated comments about annexing Canada. Public reactions to Mr. Trump's statements and their potential impact on U.S.-Canada relations. For Canadian residents, the U.S. President-elect's remarks about turning Canada into a state of the United States is just ridiculous. On the streets of Canada, some residents say the U.S. and Canada should work together to deepen cooperation, given their long history of trade. But Mr. Trump suggested he may use economic force to bring Canada into the United States when speaking to media on January the 7th, which stirred controversy. But Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Thursday that the comments are just a distraction from the consequences of Mr. Trump's tariff threats.
Him even suggesting such a thing is ridiculous, and it's never going to happen. And if Trump decides to impose any kind of economic tariffs, Canada does have a stance to in turn impose the same tariffs, and then it'll just end up being some sort of tariff war. I don't feel that a war with us is ever going to happen with the United States. I don't even think the United States people would support that. I do feel that Trump's comments so far, but they are just comments. He is known to throw things out wildly all of the time. I would prefer to wait to see what kind of actions he's planning on taking towards us. And I feel that some of our leaders, not the head of our country, but at least our provincial leaders, are more than prepared to meet whatever tariff demands he's going to put on our country. Because in the end, we have always worked together. We've done trade with each other since the beginning of time. The U.S. enjoys coming up here. We enjoy buying their products. If he wants to start a fight, they're going to suffer as much as we do.
1,000 new drones have been delivered to Iran's army as the country braces for more friction with Israel and the United States under incoming U.S. President Donald Trump. Major General Abdul Rahim Mousavi, commander of Iran's army, and Defense Minister Aziz Nasirzadeh were pictured walking among the drones at an undisclosed location. But media reports that the drones were delivered to various locations throughout Iran and are said to have high stealth and anti-fortification abilities. Iranian leader faced the risk that Mr. Trump could empower Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to attack Iran's nuclear sites, while further tightening U.S. sanctions on its oil industry through his maximum pressure policy. Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai is asking Muslim leaders to back efforts to make gender apartheid a crime under international law, calling on them to speak out against Afghanistan's Taliban over its treatment of women and girls. In a summit on girls' education in Muslim communities attended by international leaders and scholars in her home country of Pakistan, Ms. Yousafzai said Muslim voices must lead the way against the policies of the Taliban, who have barred teenage girls from schools and women from universities. The Taliban say that they respect women's rights in accordance with their interpretation of Afghan culture and Islamic law. No foreign government has formally recognized the Taliban since it took over Afghanistan in 2021, and diplomats have said the steps towards recognition require a change of course on women's rights.
Under their system of gender apartheid, the Taliban are punishing women and girls who dare to break their obscure laws by beating them up, detaining them, and harming them. Simply put, the Taliban do not see women as human beings. They cloak their crimes in cultural and religious justification. Afghan women and girls must be free to shape their own future. The very loudest champions of their cause must be fellow Muslims, leaders such as yourselves.
At least 10 people have died after landslides swept through two cities in the Brazilian state of Minas Gerais. State officials say that at least 250 millimeters of rain fell in the Patinga area on Sunday morning. Patinga Mayor Gustavo Nunes has declared a state of emergency with at least 150 people homeless in the city, which is located some 570 kilometers north of Rio de Janeiro. The Bethania neighborhood in the city was the worst affected by the mudslides, which were triggered by torrential rain. Landslide following torrential rains are not uncommon in the rainy season, with neighborhoods built on steep hillsides the worst affected. The Sudanese army says that it has captured Wad Madani, a key city in the country's east, one of the biggest gains yet in an almost two-year-long war against rebel forces. The leader of paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemeti, also acknowledged the loss in an audio message. His admission was angry and rambling, attributing that defeat to the army's air superiority and the use of Iranian-made drones. But he vowed to continue fighting until victory, even if it took another 20 years. Wad Madani, the capital of the state of Al Jazeera, also serves as a strategic crossroad connecting several states through key supply highways. It's a major town in Khartoum. Events have continued to hold in honor of the life and the times of former U.S. President Jimmy Carter for his selfless service to humanity through his Carter Foundation. Right here in Nigeria, in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, Nigeria's former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo organized a funeral service in memory of the former U.S. President at the Chapel of Christ, the Glorious King Church in Ogun State.
It's a funeral service in honor of the late President of the United States of America, Jimmy Carter. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, his wife, family members, friends, associates, and clergymen are here at the Chapel of Christ, the Glorious King in Abeokuta. Though about 5,000 miles away from where he lived and died, the memories of the life and times of the late U.S. President comes alive as the president of the Nigeria Baptist Convention, Reverend Israel Adelani Akonji, asked leaders to emulate the virtues of selfless service that Mr. Carter lived and died for.
Jimmy Carter, he knew the way, he knew God, he showed the way, he was a great teacher of the Word of God, and he went the way himself. He was a lover of his wife, his family, and a lover of people to the ends of the world. He showed himself as an inclusive person. He fought for human rights. He stood for human rights of all people. That's the man, Jimmy Carter himself.
Former President Obasanjo, the convener of the funeral service, describes his late friend as a humanist, man of God, and highlights some of the qualities which endeared him to the late U.S. president.
He grew up under a father and mother who were disciplinarian, who instilled in him a sense of discipline, morality, hard work, integrity, kindness and humility, compassion for the poor, and strong belief in God.
Chief Obasanjo goes on to commend the former U.S. president for saving his life during General Sani Abacha's military era as the head of state of Nigeria.
On President Carter's visit to Nigeria, he got Abacha to agree to take me from detention to house arrest on my farm. But that did not last for too long. Many other friends and leaders intervened, but President Carter was the only non-African leader, according to my information, that paid a visit to Abacha solely to plead for my relief.
The late Jimmy Carter was the longest-lived U.S. president and the first to reach 100 years of age. The 39th President of the United States of America was born on October 1st, 1924, and died on December 29th, 2024.
In a bid to showcase South Africa's heritage, mountainous landscapes and its cultural diversity, the Limpopo Tourism Agency hosted media personalities from both local and international platforms to an exclusive tourism excursion across the Limpopo province. The tour highlights some of the province's hidden gems, culminating with the historic Mbapugwe Art Festival. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Semusa was part of that journey and brings us the story.
Limpopo province rolled out the red carpet for local and international media personalities, offering a first-hand experience of its unique tourism treasures. The Limpopo excursion kicked off in the Sekhukhune district, introducing participants to fascinating attractions such as the Shoe Museum, the Echo Caves, and the historic Bushman Rock Shelter.
And it's my first time visiting the Limpopo province in these parts of the country. And we had an opportunity to go to the Echo Caves, where we learned about the historical background that made us who we are as modern people. And it's amazing that things that were documented is written on the walls, it's written on the caves, how they lived, and it tells a footprint or leaves a footprint of how things were shaped, how the social community was formed, and we can learn a lot from our past in order to shape the future.
The tour then moved to the Mopani district, where visitors explored the renowned Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centers, a hub for wildlife conservation. Vembe district brought history to life with a visit to the Mapungubwe National Park and World Heritage Site. The grand finale, Mapungubwe Arts Festival, was a vibrant celebration. Limpopo Limpopo Premier Poppy Ramotoba highlights the significance of the Mapungubwe Arts Festival in supporting small and medium enterprises.
For us as a province which is still trying to build its economy, Mapungubwe Festival, we utilize it as another way of promoting tourism. The people who are attending here are not necessarily coming from this area. That is why if you go and look at your lodges, which are affordable, which are owned by a number of SMMEs, they are fully booked, which means they will be able to generate revenue. If you check our restaurants tomorrow, they will be fully booked.
From history to conservation and culture, Limpopo Province left an indelible impression on all who attended the media excursion. From Limpopo Province, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channels Television News.
The iconic Elvis Festival in Australia has come to an end on Sunday, January the 12th. Wearing accurate wigs, bedazzled jumpsuits and marine-inspired outfits, hundreds took to the streets of Australian country town to parade in classic cars, decorated floats and on foot to celebrate the Elvis Presley's film Easy Come, Easy Go. In the 1967 film, Elvis balances his time between being a deep-sea diver and a nightclub singer. That parade, with this year's marine theme, is a highlight of the 5-day festival held annually to celebrate Elvis's birthday on January the 8th. But this year's spectacle featured die-hard fans dressed up as their idol, complete with diving suits and sailor hats, posing and waving in vintage cars and floats as they paraded down the streets of this New South Wales town.
Numerous hours, many viewings of this movie, and a couple of beers.
Such a great story, phenomenon, legend. Elvis had everything, and he still continues to, magnetize fans even from a really young age, and the legacy will just go on forever.
I think Elvis, he's written his own scriptures, but in music, and he's given music to the rest of the world for eternity. Everywhere you go, somebody knows about Elvis.
We spend all year deciding what we're going to do and looking at the theme and rewatching the movie. We literally plan every parks we're coming to. It's the highlight of our whole year. It starts 2025 off with a bang.
Words. Yeah, we did. There was not many absolute outfits that you could pick and say, I'm going with that. But we went with 60s theme for during the week. Yes. But today this one wins. Yes. Because that's from the movie. Yeah.
Really good. There seems to be a lot more in this one. Lots to look at, and the weather is perfect. It's not too hot and it's not too cold.
It's brilliant. The community, the spirit in the town, just amazing people. Absolutely.
And on that very colourful note, we end the first edition of The World Today for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again tomorrow. I'm Anne Wilder.